57% of Americans claim Social Security before their full retirement age. Most of them don't realize they've just permanently reduced their income, in some cases by more than $60,000. Not because they made a reckless decision, because nobody told them the rules had changed. I'm Frank Mercer. I practiced retirement law for 35 years. Estate planning, Social Security disputes, Medicare appeals, trust litigation. In that time, I've sat across from hundreds of people who did everything right, saved consistently, paid their taxes, planned their exit date carefully, and still walked into retirement with a permanent reduction in their monthly income that they never saw coming and could not reverse. The same mistake over and over, because there is a gap between what the system is required to tell you and what would actually protect you. And that gap, on this particular issue, is enormous. As always, what I'm sharing today is educational. Every situation is different. If you have specific concerns, working with a qualified advisor in your state is always the right move. What I'm going to walk you through today is exactly how that mistake happens, why the system is designed in a way that makes it nearly invisible until it's too late, and the specific steps that protect you before you file a single form. By the end of this, you'll understand why 65 is not the retirement age most people think it is, what Medicare enrollment has to do with it, and how the sequencing of your income sources in the first years of retirement can cost you $50,000 or protect it. That's not a number I'm inventing. It's what the research shows consistently across institutions that have no reason to exaggerate it. If this kind of information is useful to you, subscribing keeps it coming. No products, no sales, just 35 years of practice, shared the way I wish someone had shared it with my clients before they needed me. Here is what the data shows. The Center for Retirement Research at Boston College published findings in 2023 that the average American leaves $111,000 in lifetime Social Security benefits unclaimed by filing too early. For married couples, the combined cost of early claiming can exceed $250,000. That's not a calculation of what might happen in a best-case scenario. That is the documented average across a population that looks almost exactly like the people watching this. The Employee Benefit Research Institute, whose retirement survey is used by the Department of Labor itself, found in 2023 that 46% of retirees leave the workforce earlier than they planned, not by choice, because of health events, layoffs, or caregiving obligations. Nearly half of people who intend to work until a specific target date don't make it. Most of them had no backup structure in place. When the job ended earlier than expected, Social Security became the income floor, not because the math said it was the right time to file, but because there was nothing else. I saw this pattern weekly for decades. The version that cost the most wasn't the person who retired at 62 in a financial panic. It was the person who retired at 65, thinking they were doing it correctly, on time, at the right age, following the plan. They filed for Social Security the same month, and they permanently locked in a benefit that was 13% lower than they deserved because they had the wrong number in their head for what retirement age actually means under current law. The research confirmed what I'd been watching in practice for years. Vanguard's 2023 analysis found that workers who retire at 65 and claim Social Security immediately deplete their savings an average of 4.3 years faster than those who retire at 67. For a $400,000 portfolio, that accelerated depletion represents approximately $68,000. The causes are straightforward once you see them. 2 additional years of withdrawals, lower Social Security income requiring higher drawdowns from savings, and in some cases healthcare penalties that compound the damage. $68,000 is not an abstraction. That is the difference between running out of money at 83 and running out of money at 87. The first thing most people get wrong is what I think of as the 65 myth, the belief that 65 is the legally correct retirement age. Here's what's actually happening. In 1983, Congress passed legislation that began phasing out 65 as the full retirement age for Social Security. The change was gradual, stretched across birth years, implemented quietly, and for anyone born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age is now 67. Not 65. 67. Medicare eligibility still begins at 65. That date didn't change, and here is where the confusion lives. People see Medicare kick in at 65 and conclude that 65 is therefore the retirement finish line, the age at which everything aligns. It doesn't. Medicare eligibility at 65 is a healthcare threshold. Full retirement age at 67 is a benefits threshold. They are two different rules from two different pieces of legislation, and conflating them is the most expensive misunderstanding I encountered in 35 years of practice. Think of it like a union contract that was renegotiated in 1983. The terms changed. The retirement age in the agreement went up. But most workers never read the new contract. They're still operating on what they heard from their parents, their older co-workers, the culture around them, that 65 is when you retire. The law says something different now, and the difference costs money. For someone born in 1960 or later, claiming at 65 means accepting a permanent 13.3% reduction in your monthly benefit for the rest of your life. On a $2,000 monthly benefit, that's $266 less every single month. That's $3,000 and nearly $200 a year. Over a 20-year retirement, the cumulative loss exceeds $63,000, and that calculation doesn't account for cost of living adjustments compounding on a reduced base, which makes the real number larger. The window to correct this is specific and limited. If you have not yet filed, it's open. Once you file and receive your first payment, you have 12 months to withdraw the application. But you must repay every dollar you received. After 12 months, the reduction is permanent. There is no appeal process for a voluntary filing made at the wrong time. The second mechanism I want to walk through is what I call the Medicare enrollment trap. Most people at 65 assume Medicare simply begins. It does not work that way for everyone. Part A, hospital coverage, is automatic for most people who paid into the system. Part B, which covers doctor visits, outpatient care, and most of what people mean when they say they have health coverage, requires active enrollment. And it has a strict window. If you are not receiving Social Security benefits when you turn 65, Medicare does not enroll you automatically. You have a 7-month initial enrollment period, 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months after. If you miss that window without a qualifying reason, you will pay a 10% permanent premium surcharge on Part B for every 12-month period you were eligible but not enrolled. That penalty does not expire. It follows you for the rest of your life. The current Part B premium is $174.70 a month. A 2-year delay in enrollment creates a 20% permanent surcharge, roughly $35 additional every month for life. Over a 20-year retirement, that penalty costs more than $8,000 for nothing, for paperwork that wasn't filed in time. What makes this trap so consistent is that it catches careful people. Workers who are still employed at 65 and covered by employer health insurance often assume they're protected, and they may be if the coverage is considered creditable under Medicare's standards. Active employer coverage from a company with 20 or more employees generally qualifies, but COBRA doesn't. Retiree coverage from a former employer often doesn't. And HR departments, I've seen this many times, give incomplete guidance because Medicare enrollment isn't their area of specialty. The employer's obligation ends at the coverage they provide. What that coverage means for your Medicare enrollment timeline is your responsibility to determine. Think of it like a property tax appeal window. In most jurisdictions, You have a fixed period after an assessment to contest it. Once that window closes, you pay the assessed rate permanently, even if you later demonstrate the assessment was wrong. Medicare's late enrollment penalty works the same way. The window closes, the rate locks. I've never once, in 35 years, seen Medicare reverse a late enrollment penalty. Not once. The third mechanism compounds the first two. I call it the income stacking problem. Workers who retire at 65 claim Social Security immediately and begin drawing from an IRA or 401k at the same time, are running 3 income streams simultaneously. That stacking pushes them into a higher federal tax bracket and often triggers a provision most retirees have never heard of: the Social Security taxation threshold. Under IRS rules, when your combined income exceeds $34,000 as a single filer or $44,000 as a married couple filing jointly, where combined income means your adjusted gross income plus any non-taxable interest plus half of your Social Security benefit, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits become federally taxable. Congress established that threshold in 1983 and has never adjusted it for inflation, which means every year more ordinary middle-class retirees get captured by a rule that was originally designed for higher earners. For someone with a $2,000 monthly Social Security benefit and $30,000 in IRA withdrawals, improper sequencing can add $2,500 to $4,000 in additional federal taxes per year. Over 20 years, that's $50,000 or more. Think of it like turning on every faucet in your house at the same time. Each one alone is manageable. Together they exceed what the drain can handle. The solution isn't to skip any of the income sources, it's to sequence them so they don't all run at once during the years when it costs the most. Here is the part that genuinely frustrated me for 35 years. The Social Security Administration website makes it easy, remarkably easy, to file for benefits. You can complete the application in 15 minutes. What it does not do is flag the full retirement age reduction, model the difference between filing at 65 versus 67 versus 70, or calculate the survivor benefit implications for a married couple. It processes the election you make. It does not optimize it for you. SSA has no financial incentive to delay your claim. Earlier claims mean smaller checks, which reduces the long-term obligation on the trust fund. The application experience is smooth by design. What it doesn't tell you and is not required to tell you is what that application just cost you permanently. The financial advisor conflict runs in the same direction. An advisor who manages a $400,000 IRA earns fees based on that balance. If you delay Social Security and draw down the IRA to bridge the gap, the managed balance shrinks and so does the fee revenue. If you claim Social Security early and leave the IRA intact, the advisor's business is protected. The incentive structure favors early claiming regardless of what's best for your lifetime income. I've reviewed retirement plans where the Social Security claiming strategy appeared to serve the advisor's fee structure more clearly than the client's actual financial interest. I started asking that question routinely. Who benefits from this recommendation? So here is the framework. Based on 35 years of watching what protects people and what doesn't, here are the priorities. The first thing to do is verify your actual full retirement age. Not what you believe it is, what SSA says it is for your birth year. Go to SSA.gov, create or log into your My Social Security account, and pull your estimated benefits at different ages. Your full retirement age is listed there. For anyone born between 1955 and 1959, it falls between 66 and 2 months and 66 and 10 months. For anyone born in 1960 or later, it's 67. Do this today, regardless of how far from retirement you are. This takes 10 minutes and costs nothing. If you're already operating on the wrong number, finding out now means you can still change the plan. The second priority is to run a full break-even analysis that includes survivor benefits. Most people who've heard of the break-even concept know the simple version. At what age does the higher monthly payment from delaying offset the months of payments you didn't receive? But that calculation on its own is incomplete. For married couples, the higher earner's claiming age determines the survivor benefit the remaining spouse will receive for the rest of their life. If the higher-earning spouse claims at 65 instead of 70 and passes away at 74, the surviving spouse could receive $300 to $500 less per month for the next 15 or 20 years. That's not a marginal difference. That's $100,000 in lifetime survivor income that no longer exists because of a filing decision made at 65. Open Social Security, opensocialsecurity.com, is a free peer-reviewed calculator specifically built to optimize for married couples, including survivor benefit analysis. Use it before you make any filing decision. It takes the same information you'd give your advisor and shows you the lifetime income difference across every combination of claiming ages. The third priority is to determine your Medicare enrollment dates now. Not when you're approaching 65, but now. If you're 58 or 60 or 62, calculate when your initial enrollment period opens and closes. Write it down. Set a calendar reminder for 12 months before your 65th birthday. If you're working at 65 with employer coverage, confirm explicitly with HR whether your current plan qualifies as creditable coverage under Medicare's standard. And get that answer in writing. Do not rely on an assumption. COBRA does not qualify. Many smaller employer plans do not qualify. Verify. The fourth priority is to model your income sequencing before you retire rather than after. If you have a significant traditional IRA or 401k, the years between retirement and age 73, when required minimum distributions begin, represent a window for Roth conversions that can dramatically reduce your long-term tax exposure and lower the combined income that triggers Social Security taxation. This is not simple work. It requires modeling your current bracket, your projected bracket at 73 with mandatory distributions, and the interaction between those withdrawals and the Social Security taxation formula. A fee-only financial planner, registered with NAPFA, compensated only by you and not by product commissions, can build that model. The conversation to have with them is not, should I retire at 65? It is, show me the lifetime tax and income difference across these scenarios. If you've already filed and you're within 12 months of your first payment, Form SSA 521 allows you to withdraw your application and repay what you've received. After 12 months, that option is gone permanently. If you're in that window and the numbers indicate a delay would have been better, act immediately. We started with a simple-sounding mistake, retiring at 65. The evidence shows that the mechanism behind it is three separate problems compounding each other: a cultural assumption about retirement age that the law quietly changed 4 decades ago, a Medicare enrollment window that most people don't know requires active management, and an income stacking problem that turns simultaneous withdrawals into an avoidable tax event. Each of those problems has a specific protection. The FRA check takes 10 minutes. The Medicare dates take 20. The break-even analysis and income sequencing take a few hours with the right advisor. None of it is complicated. It just requires knowing it exists before the window closes. What separates people who retire safely from those who don't isn't usually how much they saved. It's whether they knew these rules before the decision was made rather than after it. The people I remember most from 35 years in practice aren't the ones with the complex cases. They're the ones who asked the right questions 6 months before they filed and walked away with their full benefit intact because we caught it in time. The fact that you're here asking these questions now already puts you in the right group. Everything I've covered today is documented. SSA regulations, IRS publications, peer-reviewed financial research from institutions with no stake in your decision. This isn't my interpretation, it's the framework the law provides, explained the way I would explain it to someone sitting across from me in my office. If Social Security claiming strategy is something you want to understand more fully, the survivor benefit calculation specifically is the piece I see missed most often. And it connects directly to everything we covered today. Comment below with your specific situation or question. I read everyone. They shape what I cover next. And if this was useful, sharing it with someone who's a few years from retirement might be the most valuable thing you do today. I'm Frank Mercer. Keep asking the right questions.